Been watching the SpaceX astronauts dock at the International Space Station. Seems to be going pretty well. With the exception of my one video called Ultraviolet Man Cave, anytime you see someone on YouTube give you a tour of shit at their house, it's typically right after they've cleaned, so I've done a little bit of spring cleaning. Wanted to make a video about my my network, my phone system, since you guys haven't really seen it since I moved in a year ago. So this video is going to be in 3 parts. First, I'm going to show you my network, my home network. Secondly, I'm going to show you my phone system. And thirdly, I'm going to show you some other stuff. Alright, so the home network starts here at this cable coupler. I live in the middle of nowhere, so unfortunately I do not get fiber to my house, but I get fiber pretty close to my house. I pay for a gigabit internet connection, and I get pretty much 100% of that. I've never had an instance where I've gotten less than a gigabit in a speed test. And this cable modem, which is the ISP's, I did not buy mine, it's limited at a gigabit because that's the interface. It just has gigabit Ethernet. I've no doubt that if I had a faster interface, I would get better speeds. My speed tests are definitely limited by the Ethernet in my house and up to the cable modem, so that's that. From here, this Cat 5 goes through the wall, and on the other side here, I gotta move my fur out of the way. This is my fur storage, color-coded. So on the other side here, here's where that Ethernet comes up. Comes directly into this NIC on this server. This is running ESXi. It's kind of grayed out because it's inactive. If I hit a key, it would show up in yellow, but I don't have a keyboard attached, so I'm not going to hit a key. And on here runs all my NFV, my network function virtualization. So there's a virtual firewall, there's a virtual router, VM that runs my DHCP server, and other focus you fuck, other good shit. So that's the public side, and then this is the private side network on this NIC, which goes directly to this gigabit, gotta clean this off, gigabit switch. And then from here, it spans out across the house. Firstly, 2 of these lines run to these 2 servers. This is the one that you saw me rebuild in the last video that was making the hellish sounds. It is still making somewhat hellish sounds. They're not really hellish sounds. It's a bad bearing on a fan. I really have to open it up and dust it out and see which fan is making the squealing. This doesn't happen non-stop, but it is a fan. It's not related to the hard drive, so that's a little bit less worrisome for me. So yeah, so this runs the file server, and it also, no, that's actually all it does right now. So there's a RAID 5 array in here with all my historical data, my backups, all that good shit. Over here, this is another ESXi box that I use. I have VMs on here that I test for work. There's a lot of lab stuff I do on this. This is the host that you saw me use in my Temple OS video. So that's that. Also coming out of this switch are 2 lines running up to the Wi-Fi. So this first one here is like a 15-year-old Netgear access point. Well, it's one of their routers, but I'm using it as an access point. This is driving my 2.4 gigahertz network, which I still need because some of the Internet of Things devices in my house only work on 2.4 gigahertz. Not many, but some. So this broadcasts my 2.4 gigahertz network, but my primary network uses 6 of these Deco Wi-Fi pucks. It's a mesh network. There are 6 of them throughout the house. This one here is connected up to the internet side, and the rest of them just function as repeaters and access points. So that's that. So this purple LAN cable runs over to another gigabit switch on my desk over here. So this is my desk. This is where I do all my work. This Chromebook and this Surface Book are my work machines. And then over here is this gigabit switch, so the uplink comes in over here on the right, and then it branches out here. This yellow cable goes to this Surface Book dock. This white cable goes to my desktop, which is down here. That is what's running these 7 monitors, and then this screen here gets mirrored over here and over here. And when I'm shooting video in my studio, I can actually jack in another 2. This is HDMI over Cat5. It's very cost prohibitive, borderline impossible to actually run native HDMI cabling in your house. There's not a really good way of terminating it, and then there's shielding and there's signal limitations, and it's much easier to run Cat5 in your house and then just use these HDMI transceivers. So I can jack in another 2 here. So when I do video work in my studio, I have a screen here that I can connect this cable here up into those 2 jacks and get the same video out over here if I need to. The blue cable I use for testing. So right now it's connected to this Nortel rebranded Avaya IP phone, but I also have some machines here that I'm testing for work that I may jack them into if I need to image them, do other things. So that is that. And that is the networking for here. Let me take you up to the office. This is the upstairs office. This is a mini split AC that I most recently installed. It is blowing full force cold air in here and makes it nice and hospitable. Over here you see another one of these Deco, this is starting to fall down, these Deco pucks, which is connected right into this gigabit switch. And then from there, one connection goes into this laptop, which we use for office-ly things, just general purpose Windows machine. Another one goes into this phone, and then there's also a network printer here that rarely gets used. There's a laser printer downstairs, but it's wireless. Actually, this is wireless too. No, it's not even plugged in there. It's just using wireless right now. But I could plug it in there, whatever. Here's another IP phone. This one's for the office. Pool filter is running non-stop right now because just opened it. It needs to, just shocked it with chemicals, needs to filter through for a couple days. Over here is another one of these Wi-Fi pucks connected up to an IP phone. And there's 2 more configurations like this throughout the house that I'm not gonna bother showing you because it's the same exact thing. It's a Wi-Fi puck, acts as a repeater and access point with an IP phone attached to it. Okay, what temperature is the office?
Cooling is set to 70 with a current temperature of 64.
Good job.
I'm happy, you're happy.
Oh, it's 4:44. These clocks are extremely wrong. Alright, welcome to part 2. This is the utility room, so let's start over here. So this over here is the BCM50, the phone system. It is, I think the firmware date on it is 2010, something like that. So if we open this up here, there's a breakout board. People have asked me where to get these breakout boards. I got them off of eBay. They have a Amphenol connector on one end, and then they break everything out into RJ, well they're actually RJ45s, but you would plug a RJ11 cables in there. So like these 2 lines going in here are my 2 analog phone lines. They're really VoIP phone lines because when you follow them, they go up to the Cisco terminal adapter. The BCM is capable of doing native SIP trunking, but it's really not configurable. The Linksys device, which is actually Cisco branded, gives me a lot more control over things like timings and protocols and tones and feature codes, shit like that. So I use this. I could add another one. This is licensed for 4 analog trunks, so I could also plug another 2 lines in directly under that if I needed to. There's 3 Cat 5's coming into here. One of them is going to the LAN, so this actually goes through that hole in the wall back into that gigabit switch you saw earlier. That's how it connects to the LAN, so all the IP switches transit over that connection, as well as the management interface for managing the system. The next Cat 5 is actually not Ethernet, it's the expansion module connection, so it actually goes right into the next module next to it, which is an expansion bay. And in the expansion bay is a digital sets card, and that allows me to connect up to 16 proprietary digital Northstar sets. So this Amphenol connector carries 16 pairs, well, actually carries 25 pairs, but 16 of those are going to the digital Northstar phones all around the house, much like this one right here. This M70, whatever the fuck it is, 7310. The VCM also functions as an Ethernet switch, a really shitty one, so this Cat 5 is actually what's going up and backhauling the VoIP traffic from the Linksys device. That's the LAN connection there. So the Amphenol connection from the expansion module is connected into this 66 block. So this is where all of the connections for all the phones terminate from my house. In most cases, I'm using the native phone wiring that came with the house. The wiring used to come back and terminate up here onto this terminal block, which is where the CO connection from outside is still going, but this connection's dead, so there's really no reason to connect anything to it. Sometimes when they disconnect the phone line, they'll leave dial tones so that you can dial 911. In this case, that is not the case, so there's really no reason for me to connect to it. Regardless, I still have connected a single pair, which actually comes back down here in case I ever want to use it or tie it into the phone system. I really have no reason to. So that's that. Not all of the phones in the house use the native wiring and jacks. Some of these are going into Cat 5 cables, which actually run over here to this terminal block. There used to be a security system here. Actually, it's right there. That was non-functioning, so I pulled it out and I am leveraging some of the security system wiring for digital phone traffic. So the terminals on the right connect to the BCM, and the terminals on the left connect to various cables going to various phones throughout the house. Two of these digital connections are actually coming over here to these analog terminal adapters, so I have two analog old-fashioned POTS phones in my house. One of them is for a cordless phone, and one of them is for the rotary phone in the attic. I did a video about the rotary phone in the attic. Click the card for more info on that. The phones in the house, I don't have them hooked up right now, but they do have the capability of playing audio out of the speaker. It's meant to be used for music on hold. It's called background music, but I can actually use it to pipe audio from pretty much any computer or device wherever I want in the house. Also on this breakout board are 4 pairs of terminal connections. One of them is used for music on hold in. One of them is used for paging out, so PA announcement audio out. And then the other 2 are used, they're relay contacts that close when a PA announcement is active and also when the phone is ringing. If you saw my old video from my old apartment, I was using those connections to change the color of the LED lights in my room. So these are actually going to connect to a system that I'm building, and let me show you that. That's over here on the soldering bench. Google, bar counter lights on. So over here at the soldering station is a board that I'm working on. It looks very nefarious. The heart of it are these 3 Arduino Unos. Actually, this is the only Arduino Uno. These are Chinese knockoffs. And these are connected. Each one of them gives me 13 digital input-output pins, which I'm using for various things. Each of these boards is a bank of 16 relays. Each one of these relays can control up to 250 volts AC or DC, but I'm actually just using them for audio. So I have these all wired so that I can switch audio in and out from various sources when different events happen. So if you notice, there's some mini connections here, here, and here. I'm gonna have a dedicated computer connected to this, which does 2 things. Number 1, it's gonna play music, canned music, 24 hours a day, and that's going to be both my music on hold and background music when I need it. And also the computer is going to send serial signals over these USB cables to control the relays when various events happen. So I'm going to have sound effects that occur throughout the day. And then I also have the capability of connecting up sensors and various other inputs into these boards that get sent to the computer so that I can really do whatever I want with the logic. I could take the door sensors from the security system and connect them in here, and that way if my front door or my back door opens, I can play a sound effect throughout the house. I have a 24-volt relay board here that I can use to interface with the doorbell. And in addition to that, I'm going to connect in the paging and ringing contacts from the phone system. So that's pretty much going to take care of the audio routing in my house. So when this is done, I'm going to be able to have the speakers in any room switch between any of my audio sources or background music, and when necessary, break into that audio path for PA announcements, sound effects, phone ringing, doorbell, pretty much anything like that. So over here is where the 24-volt connections are going to connect to the doorbell. Over here are the voice connections, but in most cases the audio connections are just going to be these mini connections. I have yet to finish this, which is why it's over here on the soldering station. Here's another one of these North Star digital sets. There's another one in the laundry room that you saw me install in a previous episode. There's one over there on the floor of the studio in case I want to take calls. There's one over here. There's one over here. There's one over up here. There's one over here on my desk. There's one over here. And the rest of them are upstairs. So I showed you this air conditioner before. I can change it with the remote control, but it's also Wi-Fi enabled. So I can ask Google to update it. Over here's the AC unit. It is a Mr. Cool 24,000 BTU. Here's the refrigerant lines that I had to install. It's a pretty simple air conditioner to install. The hardest part was drilling the 3.5 inch hole through the brick. There's 2 layers of brick. And then this was the easy part. It was a quick disconnect box, which is required by code. And luckily, this house had a jacuzzi here where this big slab of concrete is. And there was a spare breaker in the sub panel, so I just ran some conduit right up into it. And easy peasy. More of these Wi-Fi smart plugs, bug zapper, fountain. Where's the fucking switch for this? I gotta put this fucking thing on a timer. Telephone. Forgot to mention, everything in this closet is on battery backup. This is a relatively small UPS, but it can power this whole shit for 15 minutes, and that includes the ESX server that has the router and the firewall, and the cable modem, and the entire phone system, and all of its components. Over here's the video routing equipment. So those Cat5s you saw outside on the pillar with the HDMI transceivers, here's the other end of them. So this is an HDMI, an 8-way HDMI splitter and repeater. So this right here is the connection. So this right here is the HDMI cable that comes in from my main desktop. Comes in here and splits off of here into these HDMI transceivers, and then these connect up directly to a patch panel, which is where I've terminated these Cat5 video lines. I'm gonna add another video line going up into the living room so that I can send my HDMI video and audio up there if I so wish to. All of these plug in over here. Here's my desktop computer with the ridiculous NES port on it. On the back here is an HDMI capture card. I use AverMedia because it has very low latency. Connected to the capture card is this 3-way input selector. One of them is connected to the camera, which I'm currently holding. So that's what I use for live streaming. The other one is a cable that I use for devices under test. For example, this Windows 10 HP computer right now. And I'll show you what the other input does in a second. If I press the input selection, this should change over. There we go. Hall of mirrors, missing textures, woo. So if I unplug the camera from here and plug it into this interesting device here, hold on, I got two hands. Plug it into this interesting device here and wait a couple seconds. There we go. So now we are completely wireless. And we have our monitor displaying on all of these screens. So if I want to go ahead and shoot video in my studio, I can come over here to this cart. First of all, I can turn on these lights. They're extremely bright. I've got white lights, I have black lights over there that aren't connected. And if I want to, I can take this cable, come over here, plug it in there, and now we can see what we're broadcasting. So I can aim this over here, and let me turn these lights off real quick. And now I could do a live broadcast or a taped broadcast from the studio over here. And I can see exactly what's happening without having to run thick, fat, shitty HDMI cables all across the entire fanfare. Normally the camera would be on this tripod. If I need audio piped in, I can use this phone. If I want to do a live stream and take phone calls, I could do any of that. Over here's my storage area with all kinds of vintage equipment, VHS cameras, old school HD cameras, some studio monitors, tiny television, extra phones, new phones, old phones, spare phone system, pretty much whatever I need. Woo, woo, woo. So anyway, showed you the HDMI transceiver setup. Back here is one of these Wi-Fi smart outlets. This one here controls these bead lights, but these are everywhere. They're all over the house. Any place that I need to have something that I don't want to unplug or plug in. I think there's probably 30 of them. And then for the built-in lighting, you may have seen a previous video where I installed these Wi-Fi smart switches. They're pretty handy. And then I can set up routines so that all my unnecessary lighting turns off at the end of the day so I don't waste electricity. I have them from everything from the bug zapper to the fountain to the pool to the porch lights to Christmas lights to fans. And then as you've seen before, I can do one of these things. Go turn off the basement lights without even being near one. Go turn on the basement lights. If you have any questions about my setup, just ask below and I will answer them all. If you like my video, be sure to like, subscribe, and consider supporting me on Patreon. And be sure to stay safe out there.